We're talking with Guy Walmsley, Principal of Hawthorndene Primary School. Guy, welcome to the show. It's great to host you.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Look, I want to talk about Class Creator and your school in just a moment, but I do want to start with the context of where you are and the surroundings, because I did a quick Google search as to where your school is and the surroundings look absolutely beautiful. Can you give our viewers just a quick sense of where you are and how you came to be there?
Yeah, no worries. So we are in the beautiful Adelaide Hills. We are a school of roughly 300 kids, about 20 minutes from the CBD. Um, yeah, metropolitan school, but yeah, very invested in beautiful surrounding areas of our for our school and very invested families. Generally, quite a high achieving demographic. Highly educated tertiary families, generally speaking, with high expectations.
Well, it looks like a really nice bush kind of setting. Do you find that impacts the feel of the place and the I guess the nature of the students there?
Yeah, they do really feel like country kids at heart. I'm a country kid myself when I grew up in northern New South Wales, but now live down at on the coast and at the beach at Port Noarlunga. So feel like I sort of get the best of both worlds in the fact that I live at the beach and can actually work in the hills, which is just absolutely beautiful. But yes, in terms of our local community and our kids, they are very much invested in the local community. A lot of them are CFS community members, very invested in our local school and our local community area. So, yeah, that's something that's a real great opportunity for us to tap into and work with. But yeah, can also have its challenges at times.
Yeah, of course. Now, your school has been using Class Creator since 2017, and you started as principal in January 2025. That's correct, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Now, look, I'd like to come back to Class Creator in a moment, but I really would like to start with your school's mission, which sounds amazing, and that is to challenge, inspire, and develop global citizens and agents of change. Now, look, that sounds like a wonderful message, particularly for our younger children as they're getting started in life. How do you see the students understanding or acting upon that enormous vision?
Yeah, it's probably when I saw the vision, and obviously that was part of the journey before I got here. I was probably a lot like you, and looked at that and sort of thought, well, that sounds really great. What does that mean in practice? And what does that look like for kids as we prepare them to enter the world that they're going to enter? For us, or for me, I think it's a simple one, and it's providing students with an opportunity to find their world, and a real balance in the opportunities we provide in a holistic fashion in a primary school setting, that gives students real agency and real connection to be great members of society as they find their feet and find their world. I'm a dad of a 3.5-year-old girl, and what I value in the school is just what I'd like for her to have, which is good values, people that are really invested in the school, community, and parents that are like-minded in that view and vision, and really giving kids that best opportunity to find their world. And I think that's something that if we try and peel it back and try and keep it a little bit simply, is just to try and give kids the opportunities that we want for our own kids.
Now, look, I'm particularly inspired by a page on the school's website which talks about powerful learner attributes. Can I ask you first about the attribute of balanced, which is the importance of intellectual, physical, and emotional harmony to achieve well-being? Now, I picked up on this one specifically because many principals and school leaders that I meet with talk about how well-being has really risen to the top of their concerns within schools, and I see this right across from primary up to high school. How have you seen that issue of well-being change for students over time? Is that something that you see as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a widespread societal challenge these days. Kids come to school with a whole range of different challenges and things they have to overcome that kids even 5 years ago didn't weren't really subject to, I suppose. we've never seen anxiety in schools, and students' resilience and emotional well-being, and social and emotional well-being, as such. Something we've really got to address and explicitly teach and cater to. But it's also the support of our families and the parents that are bringing kids to school. I think we're in such a digital and digital age, I suppose, and screens are such a challenge for our kids and families, and there's a range of different instant gratification that comes to kids in that space as well, that we're working with and trying to combat. We're also seeing the first flow of students that are coming into school off the back of COVID. And that absence, I suppose, in socialisation that would have happened for core foundational years in those children in the first 3 years of their life, that potentially weren't there or weren't as readily available for them as other students that we've had come through school. So it is a massive area for us to consider, and we've been working a lot with our families, and this year in particular we put on a showing and viewing of Seen, the film, which was really about trying to build parenting skills in our parents and our community to be able to prepare them for what they need to be able to support their kids. So yes, I think there's wellbeing challenges and considerations that are bigger than we've seen at any stage in education previously, but I think there's a big area in there to support parents with their parenting as well, and how they prepare their kids for coming to school and to give their kids the best shot.
You did make the comment there about the first lot of students coming through post-COVID. Can we look at the parents in a similar way? As in, do you think the parents might have similar challenges that came out of that experience for them?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I think there's a lot of challenges that parents are in that world, and the cost of living, in our local area as well. The cost of property, and is where we've possibly had one parent who was the parent at home and stay at home to raise the kids and bring them to school. Both parents are now at work. We've got there's a lot of aspects that particularly our foundational year teachers have to really support and help to support students coming to school, to support parents who are basically first-time parents and parents with the skills to be able to support their kids. So I think there's a whole range of challenges that we see across the education sector now that we probably haven't seen in the past, that are considerations for educators and leaders.
So Class Creator is actually built on the premise of balance and balanced classes. And there are 10 other powerful learner attributes defined for Hawthorndene Primary School. I did enjoy reading through those. How does Class Creator help you address the attribute of balanced in the context of all of the other attributes listed?
Yeah, I think one thing I've always found, and in previous sites I've used the software with Class Creator as well at previous schools, but the thing I think it really helps is gives you a really great starting point, takes out a lot of that emotion around preconceived ideas that teachers and leaders have about kids, and really helps you to get a really great starting point with your classes, that takes away from the emotion and builds on working within balance around the surveys that you've put in. And like all things, it's only as good as the data you can use and what you can input to get that balance as best as possible. But I think it gives a really great way for teachers to be able to have a meaningful impact on helping to develop balanced classes and classes for the following year that takes a lot of the emotion to begin with out of that.
Now, you talked about data there, which I think is an interesting point, because students are all unique and diverse in their own way. And look, I guess we all are as adults as well. And students will naturally express those attributes as they start to develop their strengths, which means that they will, they'll develop their strengths according to those attributes, and then we'll see that as those students develop and as they get older. How do you use Class Creator then to develop those learner attributes as they become visible? And how effectively can you use the data entry and class creator to plan for that for future years?
Yeah, probably a lot to that question, but I think it's a matter of using the software to develop and have really clear process around the way that you make decisions for classes, and the friendship inputs that you have, the data that you put in, the tags that you use, and the surveys that the teachers therefore complete. So you know I think it's a matter of every school probably does their processes around class placements a little bit differently, but working on what you value and what's the key critical components for your teachers and therefore your leadership to be able to consider. So when I talk about data, I'm sort of talking. I'm not talking about student achievement data. I'm talking about the what you value and what you need to keep really clean to make those informed decisions from your Skype perspectives.
Now, look, it's easy to talk about vision and values and make things sound really, really great. And I'm sure for many places it mostly is, but there are also going to be challenges along the way. I notice you have a school context statement which talks about developing essential agreements in terms of dealing with slightly more challenging behavioural situations, which is in line with the school's values. Can you expand on what is actually meant by an essential agreement?
Yeah, so it's sort of more core understandings that we have across our school that fit within our positive behaviour for learning framework, and they're really our 101s that sit alongside our school values. That really help to develop kids as positive learners in the classroom that have a readiness for learning. So they are developed as our teaching teams at the beginning of each year. They're consistent across those teams, dependent on the particular areas of the school that they're working. So with the idea that we then come back and refine those as a staff annually with some really common core themes that give students their learner agency within that space, and obviously the areas of impact within the SA curriculum, but really give us a lever around consistency of what we expect from our students and therefore what they are able to expect from us in terms of what we can provide for learning opportunities in classrooms.
So how does Class Creator then help you forecast for potential challenges that you might face as a result of doing those assessments and having those meetings with teachers?
Yeah, so I suppose it's like all things. It's trying to make sure, and I think the key message out of this is balance. And we know there's particularly complex behaviours that can occur in schools, and there's more high level and low level behaviours that you want to consider as well. So it's a matter of having those conversations with teachers around what is and what isn't. What is classroom level that's managed at teacher level, what's leadership intervention aspects, and then having the right parameters around that and the right understandings around that when you're actually providing the surveys and the tags for teachers to be able to firstly input their own data, and then for us to be able to use that meaningfully when you can't have everyone in the classes are read for behaviour, and that it's a crisis class, because that's not going to help when you're making balance. And so it's really having those conversations but providing those parameters around what fit within each of the levels, I think, to be able to help teachers to be able to discern and make informed decisions when they're doing their surveys. So our teachers here have been involved obviously with the data with Class Creator since 2017. Myself being new to the school and principal this year, I was really impressed with what the work they've done in that space has looked like, and their ability and understanding around what the software can do for you. And I think it's important to know that it really does rely on a team approach to using the software, and that everyone, like teachers, have their opportunity to put in their data, and put in their surveys about their current kids. That helps us to then make judgments around balance of classroom, of teacher preference or friendship preferences, and then all of the different tags and behaviours, other aspects of administration that teachers would need to consider to balance workload for those classes.
Have you got a favourite feature, one that you keep coming back to?
I think the friendship preferences is excellent. I think that space and just being able to know that you can actually put in, you've got all your friendship preferences that you do outside of the class creator space, and that it's just such a visual way to be able to look and go, well, this kid's got friendships, that one hasn't, or it's a great way to be able to, because at the end of the day, the thing that a parent will hang you on is that the child didn't get their preferences. So being able to know that you've got security and the backing of good quality software that can help you to, be able to safeguard that, and that, they've been given their first and third preference when you're talking with a parent about they didn't get any friends, is a really great benefit. I think all of it really, I don't particularly have, but the thing I really love about Class Creator is the logical easeability of being able to use it, and that, it actually helps you to be efficient at making your job. Like, we were really effective in the way we used our data this year and had clean data going in, and our preferences, and we ran one draft, and that was fully approved on a balance. Like, leadership looked at all of that following those points, made decisions on those classes with a bit of balance. There was some separations and pairings that we were already accounted for within the way that Class Creator had run that first draft, took it back to staff at the next staff meeting, and we were all approved. So our class preferences and our class processes and placements was really, really effective and efficient this year, which, sometimes you can to and fro and go back, and, once you start talking to teachers and emotion comes into that, that kid can't be with that one and that's just not going to work. Well, we actually used the data in a really effective way to give us those classes initially, which were then really well received by the staff when they came back. I suppose the other beauty of what we do is we don't put class teacher names on things until after that point. So you want to see them balanced on the effect of what they have, and then we work on, where teachers would sit behind that. Following that, we'd obviously have a fairly good idea as to who's beyond which classes, and how, strategically some classes need to be balanced for, particular purposes. But it was really well received by all teachers, and with the view that if we've done this correctly, any teacher should be feeling pretty comfortable to have any class.
You've talked quite a bit about entering data there and making sure that you get all that information right. And what I really like about what I'm hearing here is that seems to work really well with your learner attributes, which sound refreshingly human-centered rather than data-driven, because we often hear about data-driven learning. For someone considering Class Creator based on your experience, what would you say to them?
Yeah, give it a go. It's great. I think it's a really great tool as a leader. That also gives great input from, your key stakeholders in the fact that you're drawing on the students' preferences. They get a say in this process. You're drawing on the parents, and what we try and do is our students and our parents sit down and they provide us with the names of 4 preferences for their friendships, and then that document's actually signed by the student and the parent that says that they've worked on that together at home, so they're both aware. And then when we input that data, that really gives us a bit of a safeguarding into that where that sort of sits, and then we work through the surveys. And then we work through, obviously, we've provided the tags before that, which give, the values of what we really need in there for our teachers to be able to do that. But I think, like all things, it really, if you do it well with your staff, you'll reap the rewards. And it does need a little bit of explicit teaching around that with your teachers, like kids in class, to make sure that you're getting the maximum out of what you're putting into it as a result of the output. So, but once you've got a good process and you've got the familiarisation with your staff around how it works and what it does, it's a fabulous resource and tool for leaders.
Well, it sounds like it's working really well for you. And once again, it sounds like it's working really, really well in just such a wonderful environment. It's been so great to talk with you. Thank you so much for your time today.
No worries. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Guy. See you again.